The South African Qualifications Authority is marking its 30th anniversary this year. Since its inception, SAQA has endeavoured to safeguard the National Qualifications Framework and ensure South Africans have access to a system that promotes mobility, quality and recognition of learning both locally and internationally. SAQA COO Dr. Makhapha Makhafola joins us now. Good evening and thank you for joining us on Late Edition.
Good evening, Juliet, and good evening to your viewers. And thank you for inviting us to come and share with you our celebration.
Such a pleasure.
To South Africa as a whole.
Now, as SAQA marks 30 years since its establishment in 1995, what do you consider the most transformative achievement in advancing the National Qualifications Framework during your tenure, and how has it impacted lifelong learning in the country?
The biggest milestone of our achievement, as you all know, that the SAQA Act was the first act in terms of education and training that was implemented post-1994. And this was established just to ensure that we have an integrated education system. As you know, that we had a fragmented education system in the past, and it's something that we're trying to bring together all the education systems. As you know, that we from schooling to colleges up to universities. I mean, I was a victim of that. I mean, I finished in 1985. I couldn't go to any university, so subject to go to a particular institution instead of applying across. Now, students who come from any background, they're allowed to go to any institutions of their choice. And the one of the biggest things as well that was achieved is to have a very robust and rigid quality assurance system to ensure that whatever qualification that is offered is authentic, it's really offered by a credible institution, and mechanism of quality assurance were created across the three sectors. In terms of the schooling system, we have Umalusi, which is responsible for the schooling quality assurance. And then in terms of colleges and occupational space, we have QCTO, Quality Council for Training and Occupations. And then in terms of higher education, we have Council on Higher Education that's responsible for that. And one of the things that we're proud of as well, and we had an award winning in terms of lifelong learning around implementation of RPL. So that is one of the mechanisms of trying to allow recognitions across various stages of various status. I mean, you can come with some people, I mean, they were disadvantaged of not being exposed to going to school, but they've been working or contributing to the growth of the economy, whether in a company format, and people like that, I mean, they can be RPL to a particular qualification or maybe RPL to even to have access into education system. One of the biggest things that we have that is really we feel very strong about is we are called the first generation of the National Qualification Framework across the world. So, I mean, in line with New Zealand and Australia, so we are right up there. And I think to me, we are proud about that. And not only that, as our current strategy says Africa First as SAQA, we're really pushing the agenda of the continent to ensure that within the continent, within the region of SADC, the qualification framework is a tool that is utilized as part of access and student mobility. And lastly, we have what you call National Learners Record Database, which is one of the biggest databases in the world, and we're the only country that is proud to say we have achievements of all the learners, whether through schooling or through a higher education system or colleges, on our database, and the qualifications that are offered in the country, they are on our database.
Now, several tertiary education institutions have closed over the past year or so, maybe a bit longer than that now, including Damlin, City Varsity. What happens to those qualifications of the learners from these institutions? So they've studied for many years, they've received their qualifications. Are those qualifications still internationally and locally recognized?
Yes, ma'am. I think I'll say so, Julia, that when you say we have the NRD, National Learners Record Database, these are all the achievements. I mean, if the institution can be closed today, it doesn't mean that the student who achieved last year, if the institution was registered with the Department for Education and Training, and then they have a qualification that is accredited by the Council on Higher Education, then that qualification is going to be registered on the NQF. So it's there in that database. So if anybody wants to leave or look for employment, and we do still verify the qualifications of some of the colleges that you just mentioned. So closing college doesn't mean that it was never recognized. So if it was registered with the department and it was accredited for their offerings, therefore it is on an LRD, and then you can be able to verify, and that person can either get employment or go and study abroad.
Good. Well, that's really good news. And now tell me, with the 30-year milestone event themed around Founding Stories, Future Frontiers, what innovative initiatives is SAQA prioritizing to address emerging needs like digital skills and global mobility in the qualifications landscape?
One of the biggest things that with all this data that we have, we help us to try and utilize data in terms of what are the needs of industry in terms of the growing market needs. And we have a new unit called DMA, which is really responsible for making sure that data is utilized very effectively in advising to the government, to companies as well. So we are looking at that space, and be able to identify, where there's big gaps in terms of colleges that are coming in, to ensure that we advise, not only the industry, even institutions, to look at those new skills that are up and coming as well. And one of the things that we're looking at, even ourselves as an organization, we have an automation project to make sure that we automate our processes and our business continuity, to make sure that the work that we do in terms of verification, our turnaround time, we have to respond to it as quickly as possible. We're trying to utilize all the digital skills that there is, and trying to build capacity within the organization. And not only that, trying to share. And the other things that we're looking at as an organization is issues around the use of AI, artificial intelligence, responsibly, because as you know, that can be used in many ways. So we are really working around the clock. We have a team that is looking into that, the use of AI in our processes, on how to advise the sector that we're trying to quality assure around their offerings and those who are trying to come in. And in terms of some of the future things that we're looking at, as you know, that sometimes it can take a long time for somebody to go through an ML program, and we look in terms of what are some of the employers' needs, because we do engage with employers and industry as a whole. Issues around micro credentials, as part of what we call unit of learning, where people can be able to train for a particular skill set for them to be able to come into workplace and be able to deliver. So we are really forward thinking. And one thing that we are looking at as well as part of for the next 30 years, issues around open recognition. As you know, that when you talk about lifelong learning, I think when you started this conversation, lifelong is not about the formal way of learning.
Yes.
So people go through a variety of learning.
Yes.
And how do you make
Doctor,
sure that,
I'm going to
that kind of recognition?
Apologize. I apologize to you. I'm going to have to cut in there. We've run out of time. Thank you so much for your time. That was SAQA CEO chatting to us this evening, Dr. Makhapha Makhafola.